The word Armageddon has become shorthand for the end of everything. Films use it, politicians quote it, preachers preach it. But before it was a symbol, it was a place. The ancient fortress city of Megiddo, sitting in the Jezreel Valley in northern Israel. And in 609 BC, one of the most righteous kings in the history of Judah rode out to that valley to stop an Egyptian army and was cut down by an arrow. His death at Megiddo sent shockwaves through a generation, and the valley that swallowed him eventually gave its name to the last battle in the book of Revelation. Tel Megiddo rises from the flat floor of the Jezreel Valley like a sentinel. The Tel, an artificial mound of compacted ruins that contains the remains of at least 26 distinct cities built one on top of another, spanning 4,000 years of human occupation. Napoleon called the Jezreel Valley the most natural battlefield in the world, and the military history of the region bears him out. But no battle fought here carries more theological weight than the one described in 2 Kings 23 and 2 Chronicles 35, because no death at Megiddo carries more grief. To understand why the death of Josiah at Megiddo was so devastating, you need to understand who Josiah was. He became king of Judah at age 8 in approximately 640 BC after his father Amon was assassinated. In 2 Kings 22:2, the biblical summary of his character is striking. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed completely the ways of his father David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. That is nearly the highest praise the books of Kings ever give a monarch. In the 18th year of his reign, around 622 BC, workers repairing the temple found a scroll. 2 Kings 22:8 calls it the Book of the Law. Most scholars identify it with the core of Deuteronomy, possibly hidden during the reign of the wicked king Manasseh. When the scroll was read to Josiah, he tore his clothes in grief because he realized how far Judah had strayed from what the law required. He immediately launched the most thorough religious reform in the kingdom's history. What followed was extraordinary. He tore down the high places, the hilltop shrines where people had been worshiping other gods alongside the God of Israel. He smashed the Asherah poles. He dismantled the altars that his predecessors had built for foreign gods in the temple precincts. He ended child sacrifice in the Valley of Hinnom. He reinstituted the Passover on a scale not seen since the Judges. 2 Chronicles 35:18 says there had been no Passover kept like it in Israel since the days of Samuel. The Arad Ostraca, a collection of administrative Hebrew inscriptions on pottery sherds found at the fortress of Arad in the Negev desert and now held by the Israel Antiquities Authority, give us a vivid picture of the administrative world of this period. Letters between commanders, supply requisitions, instructions about rations, the correspondence of a functioning military and religious bureaucracy. Several ostraca mention the house of the Lord and priestly supply deliveries, consistent with the active temple administration described in 2 Kings 22-23. Then came 609 BC. Pharaoh Neco II of Egypt was marching his army north through Canaan to support the crumbling Assyrian Empire against the rising power of Babylon. He needed to pass through the Jezreel Valley, through the strategic pass at Megiddo. 2 Chronicles 35:21 records that Neco sent messengers to Josiah, saying, "What quarrel is there between you and me, king of Judah? It is not you I am attacking at this time, but the house with which I am at war. God has told me to hurry, so stop opposing God who is with me, or he will destroy you." Josiah refused to turn back. He disguised himself and went into battle. He was struck by archers. His servants carried him in a chariot back to Jerusalem. He died there. And 2 Chronicles 35:24-25 records, "All Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah." Jeremiah composed laments for Josiah, and to this day, all the men and women singers commemorate Josiah in the laments. The prophet Jeremiah, a contemporary of Josiah, a man who had watched the reforms unfold, wrote laments for him. Now here is where history external to the Bible locks in with extraordinary precision. The Babylonian Chronicle, a series of clay tablets recording events from the Babylonian perspective, held in the British Museum under catalog number BM21901 and freely viewable in their online collection, confirms the military campaign of Neco II in 609 BC. It records the Egyptian march north and the battles of that year in the region. Pharaoh Neco II is a historically confirmed figure whose military activity in Canaan is documented in both Babylonian and Egyptian sources. The Tel Megiddo excavations, led over decades by the Oriental Institute of Chicago and later by Israel Finkelstein and David Usishkin of Tel Aviv University, have revealed the site's extraordinary 26 occupation layers. Stratum 2, dated to the late 7th century BC, shows signs of destruction consistent with the military activity of this period. The excavations have found Assyrian, Egyptian, and Babylonian administrative pottery and objects in the relevant layers, confirming Megiddo as an active military and administrative center during precisely the era of Josiah's death. And the name, Har Megiddo, in Hebrew, the mountain of Megiddo. In Greek, it becomes Armageddon. In Revelation 16:16, this is the name given to the location of the final gathering of nations, and they assembled them at the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. The valley that swallowed Josiah, the most righteous king in Judah's memory, became the symbol for the greatest conflict at the end of time. It is not an accident of vocabulary. It is a deliberate choice by the writer of Revelation, reaching back into the deepest historical grief of Jewish memory. The place where the good king died, where justice seemed to fail, where the most faithful servant of God was struck down by an archer's arrow while his enemies marched on unopposed. That is Armageddon, not an abstraction, not a film title, a real valley, a real king, a real arrow, and a name that has carried the weight of human grief about injustice and final reckoning for 2,500 years. A righteous king, a battlefield crossroads, a name that entered the vocabulary of apocalypse. Josiah's story is one of the most human in all of Scripture, and one of the most archaeologically documented. The valley he died in still sits there, silent, enormous, and waiting. Thank you for following this series. Every stone we looked at was found in dirt, not in a museum gift shop. The Bible and the trowel keep meeting. Drop a comment telling me which site you most want to visit next.